to UK Thrashers radio show, home of Mosh in the Roof On. This week's interviewee is Kieran Scott from Ashen Crown and Grimorte. But first up, let's play some Ashen Crown. This is Ultimatum. This is a brand new band to the podcast, so thank you to these guys for letting us use their music. This is 13th Sign and Electric Hammer.
Cast aside, in this four walls, schizophrenia have a 1 in 10 chance of becoming schizophrenic. Children of depressives are far more likely to suffer from mental illness. The children of both have very little hope of living a normal life.
She would rock her head for hours, gazing at the world, almost like she was not a part of it.
Okay, it's time for this week's interview from the home of death metal in the West Midlands. This is Kieran from Ashen Crown.
This is Daniel from Thrasher Wolf, and you are listening to the UK Thrashers radio show.
Okay, welcome to the latest episode of the UK Thrashers radio show. This week we are joined by Kieran Scott of Ashen Crown. Welcome to the show, mate.
I am absolutely ecstatic to be here.
Thank you very much. So Ashen Crown are one of the first bands we announced for Moshing the Roof on Volume 2. So thank you guys for being involved with that.
Of course, absolutely our pleasure.
I don't know how much Dan twisted your arm, but, you know, it's always...
It doesn't take much. Like for me, I'm like, ooh, I can do a charity thing. I'm in.
Let's go. So do you want to introduce yourself? We'll stick to Ashen Crown business at start off with. I'll probably get back onto Grimorte later on. Is that how you pronounce it?
It's Grimorte.
Grimorte. So
yeah.
So we'll come back onto them in a bit. So do you want to introduce kind of the rest of the band who aren't here and what everyone does?
Yeah, sure. I mean, they're going to love this. Right. So our lead music writer and rhythm guitarist, Steve, he does like most of the professional stuff, so accounting, things like that. So he's our main guy. He's a good businessman, so it makes sense for him to do it. Jay's our lead guitarist. He helps Steve write a lot of the music. Phil is our bassist who never talks. One day, you need to get him on an interview one day. Just do it and force him to talk. But no, he's absolutely vital to our operation. He doesn't realize it. Mike is our newer drummer. So we've had him for a year now, and it's been, just over a year. 2 years. Jesus Christ. Time has flown. And he's been absolutely integral for the new direction of Ashen Crown post Chris, our old drummer. So like he has done more for the band recently than we expected. So we're very excited about new material. Ooh, super excited.
We'll come back onto that in a second. So obviously Chris was a big part of the band and part of the kind of original lineup, and that, you know, that must be a bit of a wrench when, you know, integral members like that decide that, you know, they won't need to go in a different direction, and, you know, was regrouping quite tough for you guys, or, you know, do you manage to be?
It was at the start, yeah. So basically, when he left, we were like in the middle of recording our debut EP. Well, like, you know, finalizing it and getting ready for it. So he had to leave because he had opportunities elsewhere he couldn't say no to. So we completely understood where he was coming from, but it was definitely a a moment of like, if you leave, that's it. There's no coming back, like sort of thing. So he took his shot, and he's on the path that he is now. It was just bad timing. So with that setback, we had to find a new drummer, and the EP looked like it wasn't going to happen. So we had to look for another drummer immediately. And that's actually how the album came to be, because we weren't normally going to do an EP. But all power to Chris. We've got a lot of love for him. He's still our friend. He said it was a bit sore at the start, but we're happy for him, honestly.
So going back right to the start, how did you, with that original lineup, how did you guys all kind of get together and meet in the first place?
Oh, this is a good one. So I'm a bit ignorant on it because I only came in like at the end. But from what I understand, so the original vocalist, Tom, I can't remember his second name, but he was in the band for a while, and he created the band name, Ashen Crown. And he's sort of like renowned for that, baking bands and coming up with great names. And it was originally Steve, Jay, and Chris. I don't know where Phil came into it, but and then so they had that band, and they were advertising online, and I remember seeing it, being like, "Oh, okay." And so then I went for it, and then met them all. So they were already a unit by the time I got there. So it was very, very cool just to get like put into the fold so quickly. They were very impressed with my audition. I didn't know what I was doing, just sort of like completely just being like, "Yeah. How do you do metal? I've never been in a band. I don't know how to do vocals, really. I'm just like, my life is basically mostly like intent, and then good things happen by me intending it to, eventually, with effort."
Is that think it so it becomes sort of mentality?
Yeah, well, that is my method. So basically, like, it can be annoying to some people, but I will never not stop trying. I just won't. Like. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, everyone wants to get their band out there." And I'm like, "Yeah, we'll bring it, because I will promote mine more than you." It's like, it's a difficult one, but, it is what it is. But with Ashen Crown, as the formative years, as it were, it was very odd just to join a band that's pretty much already settled, and they were happy as they were going forward. So that was very cool.
Was it? So you said it was your first band. Was it also the first time you met the guys as well? Did you never?
Yeah.
You didn't know them from the local scene or anything like that?
Nope, didn't know a single one of them. And it's funny because this is again about my thing all about intent. So I was so intending to be in this band, I turned up 9 hours early.
No.
So they wanted to do the rehearsal at like 9 p.m. I turned up at 9 a.m. So I was very keen from the start.
Well, the rest of them, the alarm bells are going off. We've got ourselves a fucking nutter. What are we going to do?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, like foreshadowing much, right? So they were just like, "Oh my God, okay." So I texted them, I was like, "Was it 9 a.m. or p.m.?" They were like, "p.m." And I'm like, "I'm here very early."
I suggest you go for a walk around Brum for a few hours, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, luckily I've got friends in Birmingham, so I just met up with them for a coffee and some lunch and just chatted for a bit, and eventually turned up to rehearsal absolutely just like, I wouldn't say nervous, but more of confused to like what I'm doing. I was like, why am I here? Like, what am I doing? But I already had like a song written out, like with them already. They sent me a demo, and I pre-recorded what I was going to do, so they knew what to expect.
Okay, so it wasn't a complete cold...
No. They were very impressed that I took the initiative to actually record my own demo immediately, like within like a day, and then sent it to them in advance. So that was cool. So they had a referential already for live, like how it would sound on record and live.
Right. Okay.
Almost. So they were impressed with that it transitioned quite well to that. So I think that's what got me.
If you'd never been in a band before, where did your kind of death metal vocals come from? Is that you just been grunting to bolt throw in the shower, or where did it all come from?
It's very strange because like I'm a late bloomer when it comes to metal. Like I'll explain. So I grew up with metal, Motorheads, a bit of AC/DC. It's not really metal, but all like kind of power metal, and then some like Northern Soul sort of stuff. So I've always been in music because my parents, and then I think Motorhead was it. I think Motorhead was the first time I heard something, I was like, "Ooh, that's cool." And then as I got older, I then was like, "Oh shit, this is an actual genre I could get into." The first band that I ever come across that was like death metal, I guess, probably Gojira of all bands. So basically, Gojira's like Terra Incognita album. That's easily their best album. No one's heard it. Like it's one of their actual death metal albums. Like that is the first time I ever heard it, and because we bought the album for my mate Michael, who was in Mad Spanner, and for his birthday, and so we listened to it then, and I was like, I like this. This was probably 18. I was about 18, 17, I think. I'm 29 now, so yeah, that was a good long while ago. And then from then on, I just sort of got into it, and then it evolved like Demobile Gear, bands like that. And when I was getting into more black metal, Triptychon, and I was like, ooh, this is cool stuff. And then I wasn't massive into thrash, but then like I discovered Megadeth, and it all changed. I was like, I love this band, they're amazing. And then it just went from there. So it's kind of weird. Like I don't really know where to pinpoint it from, because my vocal style isn't like anything I listen to. So I think it came from around that period of time. I was like, I'm going to do that. I really like this idea of creating sonic vocal sounds and it being musical in some way. So I just practiced ignorantly, like no training, just practicing, and eventually I started to get tone, and I started to get louder and lower, and because my voice isn't naturally very low.
No, because you're quite high. When I interviewed the Tortured Demon lads the other day, obviously, the younger brother, he's already got a full-on Barry White voice where he's blown himself to crap. He sounds like he's on 40 B&Hs a day. But you're still quite normal spoken.
Yeah, and it's actually because I had this important thing that I looked up on YouTube when I first started. And it was about vocal ability and learning how to scream. It said, don't try and copy other people. Do your own style. What works for your voice? And it turns out that my manipulation of my vocals, I've never hurt myself, ever. Because I don't do anything I can't normally do with my regular enunciations. See, normally most vocalists try to do the things that their voice isn't naturally being able to do. I'll explain. So, for example, I want to say a word, I will say the word. My larynx, my vocal cords, my brain all works together with my with the airflow to create that word. It's the same thing for metal vocals. If you're trying to do something that you don't know how to do naturally, you will hurt yourself. Because forcing yourself is the main reason why most vocalists blow their vocals out. I mean, there's so many examples throughout history. You've got recently 6 Feet Under, Chris Barnes, he's fucked his vocals because he doesn't try to do what's natural for his voice. He forces this brutal persona that just doesn't suit him. I think that's one of the most important parts of getting good at getting vocals generally, is learning where your realm is. Don't push to where you're not. So I wouldn't, for example, try to do like really ridiculous vocal highs, because I don't really have the technique for that yet, because I'm not comfortable with it. So I don't force it. And I think it's just simple as that, really. Just don't force it. If it starts to hurt, stop immediately. Just don't keep going.
Yeah, don't push through it.
Yeah, because pushing through it is it's stupid. These are your vocal cords; they're not your arms.
Yeah, it's not abs day in the gym. This is something completely different.
Yeah, it's a weird one, I guess.
So you kind of, when we kind of said, you mentioned kind of death metal with a kind of a bit of a shrug. Are Ashen Crown a death metal band? Is that where you sit, or are you
I don't know,
post death metal, or I don't know. It's in these genre fluid, you could be both if you want. But
genre fluid times.
Do you still sit on that the death metal kind of stool, or you kind of, is that not as comfortable as it once was?
I think it's just too easy to pigeonhole yourself these days. I understand people's need to go, being genre specific, as I call it. So it's, for example, for the band Gatecreeper, we'll use them as an example, right? They are by the book death metal 101, and everyone loves it because everyone loves death metal. The people that are into that music will be like, oh, this is exactly what I want. When I heard Gatecreeper, I went, this is great, but it's not new. Nothing's fresh about it. So I was like, eh. And it was a moment like, it's fine, but like there's other bands that do this but better, and they're new and they're doing something new. Like, for example, i.e. Conjurer, right? When they released Maya, I've never heard anything like that. It was death metal, it was dissonant, it was heavy, it was doomy, it was dark. I was like, this is sick. They did so well because of their difference into their sound. Each like avenue is absolutely valid. Like, you know, if you want to do single genre stuff, that's absolutely fine. And I love something like Power Trip as one of my favorite like thrash bands, because it was so, you know, thrash 101. Like, it wasn't even anything complex or clever. Yeah. It was just brilliant. So there is avenues for both. With Ashen Crown, we didn't want to do the single avenue. We wanted to mix up as much as we can, because we're all from different genres of like influence, right? So, for example, Steve used to be in hardcore bands back in the day, you know, like the old school hardcore and things like that. Phil is really into his kind of like more, not I wouldn't say mainstream, but a mixture of, you know, things like Machine Head and things like that. You know, he likes, you know, good songwriting and good music. Like Jay, he's really into like some of the old school kind of stuff, you know, Obituary, Devil Driver, you know, things like that, you know, something with melody. As a lead guitarist, that makes sense. You know, he likes his melodies. Mike is very similar to actually everybody combined. He's a weird one. Mike is the anomaly. He just likes anything that is good, literally. Like anything that's got good drums, good songwriting. He's like, yeah.
Are you
me? Oh, I'm weird. I like everything. So I just like everything: doom, black metal, shoegaze, death metal, brutal death metal, slam, hardcore, thrash, you name it. If I like it, I like it. So with all these influences coming into our sound, as you can probably imagine, you wouldn't be surprised if I go, we're not death metal, but we do have death metal aspects as much as we have hardcore, as well as thrash, as well as black metal. So it's a bit of a weird one. It's a hard question to answer in a short way, so I apologise for the
No, it's fine. Because I think it's always a catch-22, isn't it? You want to say you're death metal because you think death metal fans would be into what you do, but in the same light, you don't want to say you're death metal because you don't want people to go, I fucking hate death metal, to put their blinkers up and never want to come and listen to you. So it's always that trade-off between helping people who you know are going to kind of dig your sort of music to find you, but not closing yourself off to people who you know who might be scared off by the death metal kind of vibe. Absolutely. And there's a very contentious subject that comes up with our band, and I've noticed it keeps coming up. Is our kind of our logo. I've got that written down on the question pad. Is that you obviously you're not a black metal band, so it doesn't look like a load of tree roots. It's not quite spiky enough to be a thrash logo, and it's got and it's not those skulls on. So who did the logo? Is that one of yours? No, it was Andy Pilkington. Oh, it's a Pilkington one, is it? Yeah, okay. That was before I joined the band. If there was no logo, I would have designed it. But the thing is, it's a bit of a weird one, because the contention really about it is accessibility to online, right? So let's go to ease of access. So social media, you're flicking through and you see an album cover and a logo and you go, ooh, I like the look of that. I do it all the time. Who is it? Right? Yeah, right. And I'll listen to that and I'll be like, oh, I like this or not. For example, recently I discovered a new band that I never heard before called Temple of Void. Right, Temple of Void. They got this really like kind of old school sort of brutal like logo, but they're from like America, like San Francisco or something. But it's not drippy, it's not scratchy or spiky. It's just very simple, but it has this kind of old school kind of look to it and the way it approaches it. That band is like a psychedelic like old school death metal band. They are freaking amazing. Like I go listen to them after this, honestly. Like any of their albums, just fantastic. But like they have the same problem, is that they're old school death metal, but their logo doesn't look like it. It looks like Doom, if anything. Yeah. So it's kind of a weird thing. Going back to my main point anyway, got distracted. But with the Ashen Crown logo, it's a bit of a difficult one, because we've been perceived as metalcore because it looks very simple, very bold. And I can kind of see where they're coming from, but at the same time, I don't see where that's bad.
See, I've got a bit of a 50-50 with it. I like the logo because it stands out on every bill we're on.
Yeah.
It's very recognizable. It's nice and bold. It's clean.
Legible. Yeah.
Yeah, legible, very legible. But against us is also it doesn't fit into any of the genres we play. So it kind of excludes by proxy just from looking at it. And we experienced that on release. So when we released the album, how many times I read a comment going, "This does not sound like anything I was expecting." So it did bring up a bit of like instability in the band and disagreement. We were just like, we're all agreeing it's good because it's readable, but we're all also acknowledging that people are not listening to it because of it. So we feel like we probably missed out on a lot of new listeners as a new band because of it. Saying that, we still had a massively huge influx of new fans since release. So we can't pin it down just to that, but I can't ignore that we've probably lost a good portion of death metal or thrash or, people that would like this kind of music.
Do you think so? Is there a potential that it will get kind of switched up at some point in the future? Obviously, if they've spent good money on Pilkington, you can't afford to retire it too early. You need to sell a few million albums also, to pay for that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also about branding, isn't it? At the end of the day,
and it is recognisable. And I guess there is a point that if people are going to know you and find you, they're going to all be on the same sites and through the web, and the connections are there, and they'll see you on bills, and at some point in time people are going to go, well, they keep appearing on these really weird bills, but then finally press play on Spotify. Oh fuck, they are what I listen to.
Yeah, it's a weird one because we have the ethos in the band at the moment. Really, with this subject is the proof's in the pudding. You just listen to our music. If that's if you really care about music, you would listen before judging, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but unfortunately,
this is
fans are so fickle. Our heads are so fickle. I'm not listening to that. That doesn't look like anything I'd like. I'm like, since when did looking have anything to do with what?
Yes.
But I don't blame people for being like that. It's the ease of access. You go on Spotify, it's about 1,000 bands that you've never heard of, and you're just like, no, don't care, whatever. Oh, that looks cool.
No, exactly. And I grew up in an era where finding new music was going down to the record shop and leafing through all the LPs. And I've got loads in my collection that were bought on the whim of an album cover.
Oh god, yeah. I've done it all the time.
It's in the metal section. What does it sound like? I haven't got a fucking clue. There's too big a queue at the 4 decks in the corner of the it's only $7.99. I'll buy it and take it home. And that's how there's some random shit in my record collection. Some of it are gems that you're like, I've got things in there that are like, that's amazing. I would never have found that otherwise. And others are like, what the actual fuck is that? Please, I'll get that on Discogs as soon as you can.
Yeah, I do think it kind of brings an interesting conversation because, with records, and you buy actual money. So we're going about free market, free access to, as you just said, you go into a record store and you buy an album you look like. It's the same kind of principle. The difference is that you're invested because you paid for it. But with Spotify, it's just everything's free after you. Yeah, right. So you're not invested, so you don't tend to give bands a chance. It's more of a quick listen, and you're like, don't care. So this is what I don't do that personally because I just don't, but other people do, and I'm aware of that. I know people are fickle and their time is short, and I understand that. People haven't got the time to listen to albums that they don't know if they'll like or not.
and there's so much of it, isn't it? While Spotify and Apple Music and all that stuff is great, and YouTube and all those other things is great for the ability to get hold of stuff, it just makes it also. It's not a funnel, is it? It's a massive big waterfall that's falling on you, and you hopefully grab a couple of droplets that you like, and it's really hard. It's really hard to separate. Do I invest time with this? Do I want to listen to the? I'll have 30 seconds, and if it doesn't grab you by the bollocks straight away, there is a risk that someone's going to go, it's like being on Tinder, swipe left.
Literally,
no, small dick, fuck off. It's kind of, but it's and I think that's really hard. And but you've grown up in that generation. If you're, what you say, are you all in the band? You're all similar sort of age. You're all late 20s.
Oh, no. Steve is just turned 40. Jay is 42. I'm not sure.
Okay, so you're the baby then.
No. Phil's the youngest. Yeah, he's 26.
Okay, so but from you've kind of grown up in that era. The internet didn't exist when I was first listening to music. It's kind of so you've kind of grown up on that, and I guess that's one of those things that you have to adapt and overcome, and you've got to
definitely
find your way through and force people at times to listen to you.
Yeah, literally, because this was my role in Ashen Crown. As soon as I realised that none of them were particularly online, they are online, but they're not online. They're not. They don't care. They're more of just like
they're consumers rather than influencers.
Yeah. Like, so Steve will do his bits, but he's busy. They're all busy. They've all got lives, kids, wives. Apart from Phil. Phil is the only one that doesn't have kids, and me. But like, so Phil isn't particularly very sociable in that regard. Like, he's not outgoing. He doesn't want to bother people. But I don't care. So
your filters have gone, so you're just in there.
The thing is, it's not that I have any filters. I'm respectful. I'm nice, whatever. But I also don't consider things I do rude.
No.
Like people might, but they're usually over 40. So there's this gap of sort of like, this is how the industry is now. You just got to accept it.
You've got to be a little bit cheeky and
clinging to the old days.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a difficult one. See, Steve, for example, is a bit more of the old days kind of style. He doesn't really want to be bothering people and etc. But like, for me, I'm unapologetic with it. I'm unapologetically passionate about what I do. I'm unapologetically passionate about getting our music out there for new fans, and there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is that people have been demonized in the metal scene for promoting music. When, I don't know where this came from. I think it came from some strange entitlement, just being online and having your own sort of sphere of influence. And so, for example, back in the day with tape trading stuff, people were just flogging tapes at each other. They didn't even know them. They were just like, here, take this new record. And you were like, okay, yeah, sure.
Well, it wasn't even that. It's I've, through the back of the tape trading magazine, in the back of Kerrang or where Metal Hammer or wherever you picked up the addresses from, you used to go, what have you got? You send each other a list. You tape something. Oh, I've got 15 minutes at the end of a C90 left. What shall I stick on for them? Oh, that's someone sent me this. And it
and just simple as that. And now,
go, what was that? Yeah.
But now it seems to get through some sort of gate of pretension, of this sort of self-perceived importance, and kind of you haven't done the requisite words or essays or said the right thing, so you cannot be in.
Who are
you are dismissed. It's weird. I see it all the time. For example, so people would add me on Facebook. Now, I don't do this because I just don't, but other people do. Add me on Facebook. A few minutes later, invite, right? That does not bother me. I don't go, oh no, how dare you? Do you know who I am? It's just they're just trying. And
it's networking.
As the metal scene, as a community, we want people that try, right? Isn't that the point?
It's a catch-22, isn't it? If we
were apathetic, then there would be no good music.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of that.
Completely blown away.
You're always in this catch-22. You're either you don't put any effort into your band and it's just a hobby, or you're a try-hard and you're in, and it's kind of like, no, you're allowed to push your, it's not like there's any money in it anymore. So you're not doing it to become millionaires and be rock stars. You're doing it because you love what you're doing, and that's that's the reason for doing it all.
But these people, even though they may annoy people, which I would say that annoyance is self-entitlement, sue me, is that without them pushing, without them trying to create new genres, push the envelopes, push the genres, we've got no future if we don't have people doing this. If everyone's just tiptoeing around people because they don't want to offend them or offend their self-entitlement that they've earned through their legacy in the metal scene, it's just stupid. Because I have this massive principle of we're just people. We're not this professional, legendary status rock stars. We're just people who play music, and we should be treated as such.
And I
do understand about respect, and I do understand about consideration. Not everyone wants to be harassed on Facebook. Also, if you don't want people sharing music with you on Facebook, make it a personal profile, not a music profile.
Yeah, do your friends and family stuff. Profile. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And they don't get bothered by people because they made it abundantly clear that this is not for anything else.
Yeah. And I think, you're quite interested you say that. And I was watching your interview with Carl earlier on and things like that, it's actually the old guard are probably more relaxed than some of the new guard. Some of the kind of youngsters who have like first EP and are kind of more not up themselves, but they take it all so fucking seriously. And it's like, go and watch some of these guys who've been doing it for 30, 40 years and learn to chill the fuck out because
Yeah, no, absolutely spot on. See, this is the thing. Like, I've only known Carl for a few years, just by passing in gigs and got chatting to him. We just got on. That's the way it is. And the only reason he accepted that interview is because he knows me. That's purely, and he knows that I'm in a band, and he knows we're in Birmingham, and he watches me when I do stuff. Like, he's seen me on Twitter, he's seen me on Facebook, and he's always every now and then, because he controls like the pages, there's going to like or and things like that. And he's very active in the community. So sort of thing. So he doesn't take it personally when people are just like, "Oh, Carl, check out my stuff," because he's just like, "Yeah, like I'll give, I'll give it a look." Yeah.
This is Tyler from Blacklist, and you are listening to the UK Thrashers radio show.
You're a Birmingham-based band. Birmingham metal's got a massive legacy, during, when I was a kid, I used to go through to Costermongers and get pissed with, Benediction and Cerebral Fix and all those guys. And and obviously the Bolt Thrower guys were from my hometown in Coventry and all that sort of stuff. So do you still, is the Birmingham scene still like that? Is it still big deal being from the home of metal, the old Aussie state?
Yeah, I do think it has a level of expectation and kind of like creed to it. I do acknowledge that. So being from like Birmingham area or Birmingham based, it does have that connotation attached to it. You can't avoid it. But it's not. But at the same time, Birmingham's metal scene is pretty dead. This is before COVID. Like, it was struggling. All the venues were closing. The attendance was poor. Like, we've played Birmingham a few times. I mean, our debut album release was great attendance. That's probably the best attendance I've actually seen for a non-big band. So that was like, wow, okay, didn't expect this, sort of thing. Like when Memoriam played, when we played with them, like that was a good attendance. But apart from that, like I thought there'd be more. Because
so where was that? Where was that venue?
Oh, this was in the Asylum, the large Asylum, the big one.
I know.
Warehouse.
Yeah, the big
the warehouse.
It looks like a Quick Fit.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was in that one, and that was with who did we play with? Was it War Wound? Yeah, it was War Wound. So like old school thrash punk band from back in the day, and the attendance, I expected more because of who it was. This is Carl Willits of Bolt Thrower, in a new band with members of Cerebral Fix and Benediction. So I was like, fuck, this is going to be it. And the attendance was good, just not what I had in my brain, right? So this is exactly what we were just talking about. This visions of like this amazing scene, and it's the legendary Birmingham. It's just like, it's dying.
Yeah.
Like it's really, and it's nothing unique. Every city's struggling. Every local metal scene struggles. But that was a real eye-opener for me, even though it was a massive crowd for us, but for them it wasn't.
And do you think it's cyclical? Do you think, because Manchester seems to be, excusing COVID, but, the 0161 guys, that seems as strong as anywhere at the moment. But
I would say,
do you think it kind of all ebbs and flows a bit?
Yeah, Manchester. I mean, I'm quite, close to the 0169 James and all that. Like, I know them quite well. I've done gigs with them. I've got gigs planned with them later on in the couple of years as it goes, and getting gigs for them. So, and I've been to the Manchester scene. We've only played Manchester twice, but each time was brilliant. Like the first time we went for one of the Badger Fest promotion gigs, that was when Shrapnel were playing. I think they were headlining it actually.
So was that one of John? That was one of John Badger's events. Yeah,
that was a thrash-tastic day. We were quite lucky to be on it. So we were like, wow. I mean, you had Solitary, Shrapnel. Who else? Oh God, it was so long ago. Either way, but yeah, you get the point. So like that was a really, really, really good gig. And then the second gig we played was a charity gig, I guess. It was like a fundraiser for I can't remember the name of that pub now. It's the big one in Manchester. It's like the only metal pub.
Rebellion?
No.
No.
It's like a metal pub. It's not a club. Correct. Whatever. So we were raising money for that, for them to get a new PA system and stuff for band and stuff. So we're happy to oblige on that one. That was a hell of a lineup. That was one of the last gigs that is it Amethyst? I think they were called. Yeah, I think it was Amethyst. That was the last gig they played. That was, but yeah. So so the Manchester scene, yeah, definitely like one of the best metal scenes in regards of passion and just absolute like I guess I use the word vigor. Yeah, they're very vigorous there. Like they do everything by extremes. Like it's like the attendance is great, the pits are mental, the promotions are great, the quality of bands is really good in Manchester. I mean, you got Footprints in the Custard, and you got like Frozen in Shadows, Tortured Demon, Vendetta HC. You got this can keep going. Like there's so many great bands in Manchester.
Do you think that's due to having some enablers again, though? We mentioned earlier on, and part of it is having some champions within the scene that are going to pull events together, are going to.
Yeah.
Half of the problem is it. Otherwise, it's disparate, isn't it? People are just doing their own thing and going in their own direction, and sometimes not that anyone should be looking up to James in any sort of way, but having a bit of a with Jane clipping him around the ear to keep him on track, and having a bit of a figurehead in the scene, I think and John Badger, because John's a bit of a legend himself. Having those sorts of people that care about music and live music is really important, and who've got the pull to and I think it's easy when they're not part of a band, even though you have people that are within a band that are really supportive. At the end of the day, they're still looking after their band to a point of view, whereas they're a step outside that and can look after everybody, which I think is really nice.
Oh yeah, like there's no arguing that there's a disparaging like disconnect with like the word community in metal, and I think this is something that definitely needs to be addressed post-COVID. I don't know how it's going to get addressed, but we'll see. The problem is that I found at the moment is that metal scenes aren't working together. There's this odd, like, I don't want to use the word rivalry, but like this competition stuff. So you'd have 3 promoters in one city, right? And all of them would just be out trying to do each other or try to undersell each other or things like that. And that kind of behavior, that sort of selfish capitalist kind of mentality, I don't get it. Because what you're doing is basically thinning out audiences. You're lowering the standard of possibility of bands. And for what? Ego? Just to feel good about yourself as a promoter? Ooh. If you make it about yourself, you're not in the metal community. That's kind of my mentality with it. I mean, don't get me wrong. It can feel good pulling a good night together. I've done it loads of times and it does feel great. But you're not doing it for you. You're doing it for the music scene. And that's the best thing to always remember. There's a lot of them that pretend that they're doing it for the music scene, but I watch their behavior. I see who they book and why. It's always the same bands. It's always the same, close-knit clique. And it's not how it works. If you're running a festival, you can't keep booking bands that you like. You've got to book bands that people like, that people will come see.
It's also that, that risk of oversaturation as well, isn't it? If you're a local band and say, you play the Dog and Duck every other Friday for 6 months, people are going to give less and less of a fuck about you because you've
absolutely
I really like your band, but please stop playing. I want to see someone else.
Yeah, literally. I'll quote my girlfriend here. She goes, "I love your band, but I've heard like the same songs for about a year, and I can't be arsed now." And I went, "Yeah, that's fine."
Love you too, dear.
We've got new material now, so she'll be more happy to hear that. But it's always a good testament on that one. If your girlfriend thinks you're getting a bit boring, just change it up a bit.
Time to write some new songs.
Yeah. But going back to what I just said then about competition and lack of communities and stuff. I think more promoters need to work together. I think there needs to be less rivalry stuff, less competition, because it's not helping. It's not helping anyone. If we can get three promoters, all of their spheres of influence and all their reach, etc., and the bands that they all know, if they all work together, book one gig, right, with all these great bands, all their spheres of influence for potential PR to get people to come.
Yeah.
Those gigs will be like the old days. You know, it will be full. It will be intense. It would be brilliant. And the lineup would reflect the audience.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a weird one, but I do think the problem is at the moment, festivals are different. So we won't go on about festivals, but it's more of like small promotions, small gigs. It needs to be more inclusive in the community, less like excluding anyone that isn't their friends. I think that's the kind of the main thing.
Yeah. So, you know, we said the 0161. Where else in the country do you think's kind of getting it right at the moment? Have you been up to Scotland? Have you been up to the CST?
Oh, I'd love to go to Scotland. We have almost no opportunities or anything for Scotland. We've tried many times. We've got in with Rick Fleming so that's he's going to help us out. Maybe help sort us get some gigs and stuff. What about
Ewan at from Ifrian? He organises Edinburgh.
We had a try, but COVID. So
yeah.
So that just kind of like, okay. Because we just said to Ewan, just said forget it. We'll just see what happens.
Because for me, that seems like the other scene that have really got themselves sorted out. You know, they all seem to be networked together, and they're bringing bands up.
Wales is not too bad either. You got North Wales as well. You know, like even though it's just like a bit out the way, North Wales is not bad location to like Liverpool, Manchester. You know, that kind of area.
Yeah,
you can actually get like, so you got Pentrafest down there that's run by some good lads.
Yeah,
the two Ians.
I saw the Riptide set from there on YouTube or something. So that was like a really good festival.
Yeah, it's good fun. It's like done in this sort of like community hall, but it's just like kind of like an old bingo hall, but it's just full of metalheads. But yeah, so like that. South Wales has got a good scene as well. You know, Gavin from Sodomized Cadaver, he does Eradication Fest and a lot of gigs out of Fuel. He does some gigs in the Griffin as well in Bristol. Yeah. So like, I would argue that he's definitely one of the most predominant at the moment for booking kind of lower to mid-tier bands and putting them all together. Like we got booked on to 2021's, well, essentially this year, but it'll be next year, obviously. Eradication Festival, which that lineup is already great.
Yeah, so and it's growing again, isn't it? They added some more bands the other day, I think. So that keeps on.
Yeah.
Keeps on.
Happy about that. Really
and it looks good.
That.
And
London. London has a good scene.
London's always felt a bit disparate, though, and you go back to the legendary days of like the Marquee Club and things like that. But there's other. I don't know. Just doesn't seem to be quite so joined up anymore.
Yeah, it's less small promotion now. It's more of like mid to big tier kind of like influence people or people that have like connections. Which is expected because London's.
It's London.
It's massive competition there. Like so there's a few promoters I know down there that do a lot of good work. So we'll be hopefully making some. Well, we were supposed to be down at Chuck Fest, weren't we? Yeah, so that was a festival based around Chuck from Death. Yeah, so kind of like a celebration of death. So we managed to get on that with loads of great bands, but that never happened because COVID. Oh God, this is so sad. I'm getting depressed. But
yeah. So you kind of touched on that's the scenes themselves. What about bands at the moment? Which are the bands that you're looking around and thinking, either these guys have got such a heritage and they're still doing great stuff, or the youngsters coming up behind you who are going to keep you on your toes?
Oh God, yeah. So this is endless. So I'll keep it short as possible. So for example, like Memoriam is a good example of like people still chugging on, doing what they do unapologetically to themselves and not pandering to.
I was amazed. I was amazed when Carl said they're doing. This is another run of 3 albums as well.
Yeah.
I thought retirement was in his future. It's kind of.
Oh yeah, no chance.
So
he keep going until he stops. That's literally it. Like. At the moment, it's a bit sucks for Andy Whale because he's got a bit of a bad shoulder. He's got some issues with that. That's why he's had to step out for a bit. But there is, as in the interview itself, like Carl said, he's not like he's not coming back. It's more of just like for now, Spike will take over. Spike's got a record that's longer than anything I've ever seen, so he's the perfect guy to fill in.
Yeah, if someone's going to fill in for Andy, you want someone of kind of Spike's kind of credentials, don't you?
That old school punk influence, bit of thrash, bit of death metal. He's perfect. He's absolutely perfect fit. But like with Carl and Memoriam, like they're still doing what they do, and they're not. And then to me, they don't feel like they're regressing. I feel like they're progressing. Like I've heard a track off this album that isn't been released yet. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But oh my days, I was not expecting that. So very exciting things for everyone in the next couple of weeks. But in regards to like kind of like old school bands, like, you know, Benediction's latest album's an absolute banger. Like I was like, whoa. You know, like the old boys have still got it. That's what I said to Carl in the interview. I went, you know, you put the young ones to shame. You guys do.
Yeah, it was it. Well, and Dave going back into the fold, I think that's really helped. You know, because you know, although I originally got into Benediction when Barney was still in the band. You know, Dave was the Benediction vocalist from, you know, over that Subconscious Terror and, you know, that sort of, you know, that kind of early 90s era when, you know, when death metal was everything, you know, that was
of course, that was,
you know, so but it's great to hear Dave back in, and as you say, Scriptures is fucking fabulous bit of work. I can't knock it. The artwork did throw me, I will be honest. I looked at it, I went, that's a bit colourful. But it does look cool. I was like, okay, right. But it made sense with the album when I heard it. I went, okay, this makes more sense. I was expecting a bit more of an old school look, but they just went for a bit more of like a Might and Magic kind of. I was just like, okay. A trading card for some sort of Warhammer.
Yeah, I was like Magic the Gathering or something. I was like, okay. But yeah, so talking about appearances of albums earlier.
Yeah.
But, you know, but with like, you know, there's the old school legends just cracking on, just bringing out great albums and setting the standard and like keeping their title, you know, as being legend. You know, they released a great album. This is why they're still there. You know, you got bands like Accept, even though like that their new album artwork is probably, personally, I really hate it, but the actual album itself is pretty great. So it's one of those kind of like, you know, the old school bands are still cracking on, like Creator, and, you know, even AC/DC's new album was pretty good. I mean, it was AC/DC, just that's it. But you know, I was like, this is still pretty good though. Like, I can't fuck with it, man. If I'm that cool when I'm their age, wow. You know. But then you got the newer bands, you know, the underground in the UK. Well, we just talked about them earlier, Tortured Demon, right? So I just reviewed their album. Wow.
Yeah, we posted we posted our review yesterday, and it's like, kind of a,
because I come across them through James, and he was like, oh, check out these young lads. And I went, oh, yeah. I was like, oh, he really meant that. Oh, my God, they're children. You know, sort of thing. So I thought, oh, I'll check them out. And I listened to some demos, and I was like, that's not bad. You know, that's what I expect from your first band kind of stuff. So I dropped them a message. I was like, because I'm nice sometimes, I was like, do you want a logo? Because they're kids, I was like, I'm not going to charge you for it. Yeah. You know, and they were just like, yeah. And I was just like, so I did them a logo, and I was like, there you go. You know, good luck to you. I hope you know, that was my kind of, I hope this helps and gets you out there a bit.
Yeah.
Because after I heard the music, I said, what kind of logo would you want? They said, something that's readable, but a bit kind of everything, a bit thrash, a bit death metal, a bit, you know, just a bit everything. I was like, okay. So I threw them that one. And then they hit back in my inbox like a few months later to being like, oh, can you do our album for us? And I'm like, you're doing an album? Okay, right, yeah, fuck yeah. So I did him a deal because obviously their parents paid for it. And
I was going to say, you're kind of doing pocket money rates now, are you?
Well, yeah, for them, yeah. So for them, I did them a deal. I was like, 100 quid, I'll do the album artwork, design the T-shirt, the CD, the whole lot, you know, the presentation package, any graphics you need, let me know, sort of thing. So I thought I'll help them out with that, because I think that was a good thing to do, because end of the day, if I wish someone would have helped my band like that when we first started, you know, just so that would feel like that's kind of like passing it on the sphere of influence to the next generation. I kind of saw it like that.
Yeah.
So today I had a bit of kind of like a weird proud dad moment. I listened to the album. I was like, wow, I'm really proud of these lads. This is fantastic. You know, it's rough around the edges in some parts, but do you know what? I don't care. Like, I was like this,
but it should be.
So good.
I don't. I don't want a Pro Tool to fuck professional product from a band that's just dropped their first full length.
Exactly, and
it's like, where do you go with that?
Yeah, no, exactly. And the thing is, though, even though I've said that, it's still well produced.
Oh, God,
it was still well recorded.
Yeah,
like the songwriting was fantastic. You know, like, so that's a band that I can see in the few years just going bang up, just going up. Like, they're going to hit on bills. They're going to hit it off. They're already doing well. You know, and all the people that have heard it, all like you and me, are like, when this drops.
Yeah, and it's going to surprise some people, because it's, you know, it goes back to that conversation earlier. It, you know, I think they tagged themselves thrashcore, but it's got a bit of everything in. It's got a bit of everything in there, isn't it? You know, there's enough for old school thrashers like me. There's enough death metal stuff for people from that genre. There's the core kids will get it. So it blends it nicely but doesn't put anyone off. I think.
That's one of the things that I found very remarkable while listening to it. Was I was like, there's a song that's new metal. There's a song that's gent. That's got, and then it's got thrash, and then it's got like clean, like Trivium-esque kind of like epic songwriting and moments, and then they've got these dirty breakdowns that are just like,
where did that come from?
There's such a weird mix of music, but I think that just shows that this is the future of how metal needs to go. It needs to be not genre gatekeeping. It needs to be a mix of everything that is metal. And I think those bands like Tortured Demon are only going to succeed because of it.
Yeah.
All the bands that are trying to bring back the old school are just going to only hit into that one niche market and never get out of it. So that's kind of, again, actually, that kind of fits into Ashen Crown, where we were talking about earlier. That's kind of what Tortured Demon are doing, is kind of what we're doing, but we're doing it with more of an old school influence, where they're doing it with more of a new school influence. And it shows. Tortured Demon is definitely on our radar for some gigs in the future. Like, I want to get them on a few bills with us. Definitely. And book them some gigs, hopefully.
After they've been on Zentrix, you'll be, left in the dust. They're not interested.
Yeah, we were saying that because I was talking to guys about it. I was like, bloody hell, they've already supported Zentrix, and they were just like, holy shit.
Yeah, you'll be supporting them, not the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind, to be honest. But, in all fairness, like, bands like that, that's the future of, like, metal. And, there's a few more examples as well. You've got, like, we can't ignore it. It's everywhere. The rise of the new wave of hardcore. You can't avoid it. It's everywhere, right? It's a big scene. And if you ignore it, you're an idiot. So, like, you should never ignore what's popular. At the moment, I understand, like, people's reservations with hardcore because the negative connotations with hardcore dancing, two-step stuff, and crowd killing and things. I've spoken about it myself. Just I don't care about the genres and the habits. It's just the crowd killing part. I just think it's abhorrent. I think if you're doing that, you are literally causing the worst perception of metalheads. You are the thing that they keep telling us we are, as the media, and normal society. Like, this is not what we're about, sort of thing. I understand and I get it's a form of expression, but if the way you express yourself is by hurting people, I think you need help.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference between, again, back into the good old days. I remember, mosh pits becoming a real thing, and going from the pogos of before into becoming a real 88, 89 mosh pit styles and things like that, and all the press that went with that. But no one in there went in to specifically hurt. Well, there was always some dickhead, but he usually got a slap quite quickly. But there was always you pick someone off the floor. You kind of, if something goes wrong, you'll try and hold back people so they can get themselves out of the way and all that sort of stuff. And
see, you just acknowledged it there, right, by saying that. So what you said is like, so it's usually individuals like that just either being particularly bad, and then they get corrected.
Yeah,
right. Where in the hardcore scene, they don't.
No,
it's part of it. You just got to accept it.
Yeah,
and that kind of regressive sort of denial is why hardcore is getting such a bad rep at the moment. See, I love hardcore. I think it's a great genre. I think there's some fantastic bands in it.
Yeah,
I've always liked it, but I can't go to the gigs. I just can't, because
you don't want to play them.
Well, I'll put it this way, right? I'm partially blind, right? I wouldn't see it coming. That's the thing, right? So I wouldn't be able to know it's going to happen. I think it's always a bit of a risk when I go into a pit, but I know I'm safe.
Yeah.
Where in a hardcore gig, I know I'm not. And that uncomfortability, it kicks in that kind of like anxietal survival instinct, which is not what you want at a gig.
And do you think that, I mean, obviously at the moment there seems to be a bit of a rise of crossover bands again. And, I think I was speaking to the guys in Sidewinder the other day, and like this Blackened crossover, and they're kind of on the verge of, are they one of us, or and if I'm going to do a podcast, I'm going to do a podcast with them, because them and the Inhuman Nature guys, there's this kind of
Villa as well.
Yeah, there's this. The gulf has kind of got narrower and narrower again, and again harking back like an old fart, but you know, your DRIs and your suicidal tendencies. The first ever gig I went to was Suicidal Tendencies.
Oh wow!
And that was like an MOD. So you know, there was punks in the crowd, there was metalheads in the crowd, and it was, you know, I you know, punks with clogs on and fucking 40-foot Mohicans, and it was, but we kind of back at that again, you know. And I think you mentioned Power Trip and Municipal. They've made hardcore and therefore crossover kind of closer to back to metal and thrash again.
Yeah, which is good. But
a lot of us don't know where to go. I never went down that kind of alleyway. And you know, there's a band called Guilt Trip that someone shared to me, and then there's Borstal, and there's all these cool hardcore bands.
Yeah, you've got Wired THC as well.
Yeah, and there's
crossover.
But there's a whole load, and it doesn't sound that different to thrash. And then you watch the YouTube video and you see the karate, and you're like, "Whoa, fucking hell! I'm not going anywhere near that." And it's a real, you know, it's a topic I intend to kind of delve into at some point in the near future.
Oh no, definitely. I mean, if you ever want to talk to me about that, I could go on forever about it.
I might drag you in. We'll do a kind of a 3-way Zoom with everybody and try and do a.
Yeah, I mean, like, because I try and get someone who's more pro for it. Get a debate going.
Yeah, and that's what I want to do. We've got a kind of an offshoot podcast series that we're looking at, which doesn't cover the kind of the week in week band stuff.
Okay.
And does something, so UK Thrashers Guide to ... and that gives us the opportunity to cover all these. So what the fuck is hardcore? You know, how does hardcore fit into the metal community today? And you know, and it allows us to go and do other.
Yeah, what's the beef?
Yeah, exactly. So so kind of back onto Ashen Crown. Obsolescence has been out for
just over a year and a bit now.
Year and a bit. So where you kind of touched on it earlier on, where are you with kind of new material? You busy putting stuff together? What's the kind of timeline of events for getting stuff out the door?
Well,
just make the missus want to watch you again, really.
Yeah, I think the problem is obviously is COVID. It's caused a massive hindrance for us as a band because we've all got, you know, vulnerable people in our lives. Like Steve's got his father who was recently quite ill, so he's got to make sure that he's extra careful for him. I've got to look after my dad and my mum. My dad is 74 and has heart failure, so my mum is also in her 60s now, and she can't really give him all the support she needs. So we've basically had to like just not see each other as a band for a while. Like we're talking almost a good year.
Yeah, we
only managed to get a few rehearsals in, but it was, and then lockdown again came in, and we've had a very, very slow, interrupted progress. But we're okay because at the end of the day, we're not in a unique situation. We're not the only ones that aren't releasing anything, who are held back, who are a bit kind of stagnant. We're not the only ones, so we can kind of take it on the chin a bit. We are working. We have a few songs already that's kind of done. Steve records some bits at home and sends it to me, and I'll record some bits on it. We've got one that's pretty much finished. One of them is 95% finished. The third one is pretty much finished. And this, again, when I say finished, I mean it needs to be rehearsed.
Right? Finished, ready for rehearsal.
Yes, and then it will get chopped up and changed. But you know, so we've got about, I can say confidently, we have about 5 tracks almost now that of the new album. So we've got an idea of the sound that's coming. It's very different to Obsolescence, but it's also familiar enough to recognize it's us. So it's got nuggets of what you liked about Obsolescence, but more. So it's just Obsolescence, but more. So the idea of Obsolescence as well, it was actually kind of a personal statement as well, because Obsolescence was the album that we did with Chris, essentially. So Chris had like all the influence writing wise, drum wise and things, and the songs were finalized. So Mike did them, but they weren't his songs.
Yeah.
So the only songs that he did really were it was Under the Leaves, the last track, the final track. That's a Mike track. So so basically imagine like Under the Leaves, but like better in every single way. That's the new material. So if that doesn't get you excited, I don't know what will.
Under the Leaves kind of was the kind of the passing of the baton really from Chris into the kind of the new band.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so Under the Leaves, it's more about letting the past decay where it belongs, sort of thing. So that's the term obsolescence is actually self-referential because the album is now obsolete.
Yeah.
It's going to be obsolete moving forward. So that was kind of a bit, it sounds a little pretentious now I'm saying, but like it's, we're all artists and we've got to breath off.
You're all a bunch of fannies, yeah.
Oh, we are, yeah. But, so Obsolescence was a great part of our musical chapter as a band, but it doesn't solidify our sound. And that's probably the most exciting part. So moving into the next record, which will be revealing some stuff soon once we finalized a few things. We're looking at releasing a track or a music video, probably in the next few months. We're not sure. It's just dependent on everything at the moment.
Yeah.
The quicker we can get back into the rehearsal space, the quicker we can finish some songs off. Because what we don't want to do is do it'll do. I don't want to do that because I want this next album because we've got like a year to work on it. We only released the Obsolescence in November 2019, so we've got time. It's only been over just about a year now, so we're looking at maybe like 2022 release. I'm hoping, so that would be really cool. Probably about the same time, maybe like October, September. But very, very excited. I think that's it though. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We've just been cracking on as slow as we can.
So on the while I've got you kind of doing, I'll do a 2-for-1 interview. So your other band,
yes.
So your Grimorte. That's how
Grimorte, yes.
That's just the two of you and
Lewis.
So, where did that all come about? Is that just an expression of your creative ability to do stuff that the Ashen Crown lads wouldn't let you do, or where did it all come from?
It's actually a mix, right? I'll start at the beginning. So I met Lewis in my hometown where I live in Shrewsbury, right? So he was doing open mic nights, and he's very, very good singer. He's kind of like a he reminds me of like a country singer, is the way of explaining him. But and I met him through there and we got talking. It turns out he really liked black metal and doom and stuff. So we got chatting, and that was years ago. So, and then I didn't see him for a while. And then randomly we were just started talking about music again. This was like the start of the first lockdown. So at the start of the first lockdown, we had a conversation about like, I'd love to do this project and ideas. He was like, oh, why don't we do a song? Because he's got a solo project called Hierophant. Hierophant is like a post-atmospheric black metal band. So I was like, oh yeah, let's mix both. I want to do doom and that. And he's like, yeah, sound. So we did one track. And I give it a listen. I did some vocals to it. And he liked some ideas, didn't like some other ideas. And then I just said to him, just like, should we just do it? And he's like, what? Should we just do a band? And he's like, yeah. So we recorded it, and like within 2 months before release, right? So we had it demoed, like kind of ideas, but we didn't have enough time due to everything at the moment to actually do it properly. So we recorded it the best of our ability, and we had this whole concept about occultism and like kind of like a best way to explain it, like indoctrination, dogmatic intelligences and things like that. And it kind of fit very well with the post-Brexit debates, and so it was just like how we were all misled and turned into these vessels of gross opinion. So it just kind of came into that, and then we sort of like tied into Aleister Crowley and the Golden Dawn and occultism, because literally, I'm not exaggerating, around the corner from my house there is a Freemason church, and it was one of the members of the Golden Dawns that were there. So I was there like, okay, this is too good. I've got to do it. So we did that, and it was very kind of open-ended. So there's no like real massive thing about it, but we liked the idea. So because of everything that happened with this year and how fucked it all is, it felt like a good outlet, just that doom, just screaming and doom. But Lewis was a bit difficult. He had a difficult situation that he's in because he lives on a longboat, which is a canal boat, right? Yeah. So recording an album on a longboat is not easy because he has to run his engine to create electricity, So we can't do acoustic or microphone to amp recording.
Right.
So he had to compromise the sound to actually make it work. So what you're actually listening to is an album that was completely mixed, mastered, and recorded on a boat. Right? And when I say, like, we were just impressed it came out as well as it did. It could have been better, it could have been worse, but we're happy with that we did something over the lockdown. We're happy we just did it. You know, going into it, creating a new band during one of the most unstable times we've ever been in, I was either brave or stupid. Yeah, I can't figure it out, but I tell you what, man, the reception we got was mental. Like, just from my and Lewis's influences alone and our spheres of who we know, the band went boom, like just big hit in the local scene. People were throwing money at us, and we were like, is it that good? Like, we could hear potential in our music, but we're just like, we're not happy with it, you know? Artists never are. It was like, it could be better, you know?
So what's the plans with it going forward then? Is it is it going to be live? Is it going to be more, or
It will be live because I will be moving. I'm going to be moving down to Bristol post lockdown, where Lewis lives near London, so we're basically going to be congregating there. So the plan is that we'll do that as a live thing. That was good. So Ashen Crown is my main live band, but Grimorte is definitely my dark side. Let's say it work, because there's a lot of dark stuff I can't do with Ashen Crown because of the bright nature of the tuning we play in and the riffs and stuff. It doesn't quite work, but you will see a bit of Grimorte coming into Ashen Crown a little, and likewise the other way. But with Grimorte's new stuff, I'll give you an exclusive here, so this will be quite fun. So basically, the concept for the new album is going to hedge off very nicely from the EP. So the concept of the EP is a woman gets indoctrinated into this occult. She then becomes indoctrinated and then possessed at the end. Now, this possession was done by a Lovecraft mythos cult. Yeah, we're going deep. So we're going HP Lovecraft big time with Grimorte. Now, with Grimorte's name is Grimoire, and Mort, which is death.
Yeah.
Book of Death, Necronomicon. So it's basically about the different chapters of the Necronomicon and stuff. So with the album, it's based around a concept of there's a being in the mythos of Lovecraft called Lu Cthulhu. Lu Cthulhu is known as the birth womb of all dark gods. So to give you an image, it is a pulsating water sac of pus, tentacles, and eyes that spunks out children that are all grotesque and absolutely abhorrent. So moving forward, that the EP is going to be about this woman from the EP became the vessel for Lu Cthulhu, and then she explodes into this nightmarish, maddening creature of dark destruction and despair.
Wow!
So the first song on the album is going to be epic.
That gives you some great outlet for visuals as well. I'm sure the music video that's going to go along with that is probably not going to be PG.
Oh Lord, no! I've been looking at. I was looking at some ideas because I did the music video for the Procession in the EP. I did DIY, didn't know what I was doing. Did all right with it. It looks pretty good, so I'm quite impressed with that. But moving forward, I'm definitely going to do a really, really, really epic one. Props, the lot, graphics. I might hire some artists to help me out. But yeah, it's really, really cool. But yeah, so that's the exclusive that you've got. No one knows that yet.
Brilliant.
But I've hinted it with a little squid emoji on all our posts, and they're just like, what? I don't get it. But yeah, so very excited about the new material. The new material.
What's the timeline on that? Sorry.
I was
just saying, what's the timeline for that?
Timeline, we're looking at, it'll be recorded this year. We're definitely going to look forward to next year release. We're not going to do an October release this time because it didn't give us enough time to actually promote the record enough. So we're looking at maybe early 2022, March, May, around their time. The album itself, genre-wise and specifications, the EP is more of a taster of what this is going to do. So you expect a long album. This is going to be like atmospheric, dark, like epic doom, really like dissonant, harmonies, classical music, orchestras, the lot. It's going to be off the chain ridiculous.
Sounds awesome. It's
yeah.
So definitely full on concept, you know.
Oh god, yeah.
Brilliant. So out of the band stuff, you know, you seem like a busy guy. You kind of doing stuff for Blessed Altar Zine. You know, doing graphic design stuff. You know what? You do a bit of promotion stuff yourself. You seem to keep yourself pretty busy when you're not having to pop at people on the internet. You know, it's kind of. What else?
Yeah, I don't take it personal. I'm just more of like you're all twats. Like I keep myself busy. That's been a blessing actually over lockdown. You know, a lot of people didn't have all the outlets I've got, so I do definitely count my blessings. But yeah, it's like so with the graphics and stuff. That's always been a secondary hobby. It's kind of like a hobby. It's something that I did because I joined Ashen Crown and I felt like I needed to help. So I felt like learning how to do graphics was the only way really of me helping, because I can't play an instrument because I'm dyspraxic as crap. So I can't play. So I can at least do something. So that was kind of my my sort of interest. And then it just sort of just carried on. It got better a little, bit by little. I've got no qualifications, just completely self-taught. I've learned a lot, still going. But yes, and then reviewing as well. Like I got asked to join Blessed Altar Zine a year ago, which is really cool. I did try to do my own little publication thing, Rifftastic, but it did go okay. It's just I couldn't get writers. It's hard to get people nailed down.
Yeah.
So I just sort of just binned it for a bit. It's still there. Everything's still there. I could easily revive it if I wanted to, but you know, it had a decent following. And things like that. You know, a couple thousand likes on Facebook. You know, the website got a lot of hits every now and then, you know. And we were getting 60 or 70 views an article, which is quite mad for a small one.
Yeah. It's tough though, isn't it? You know, I mean, there's so much.
God, yeah.
There's so much out there. Unless we're on the promo now, and we get, we've gone from only taking self-publicized bands, and we're on some of the bigger labels now get their promos to us. But
yeah, definitely,
you kind of, I still pick and choose. I don't want to be reviewing, country rock band from Indiana or whatever, because there's 9 million other sites doing that. And we'll drift. We'll cover anything from the UK. We'll cover death metal bands from the UK. We'll do, we've just done Wolf and Crown. We just done an interview with them. So we're doing a bit of atmospherical black. But we'll support the UK scene. But of
course,
thrash is where we're at, and I don't want to be kind of reviewing atmospheric post-blackened death metal from from the Outer Hebrides or from Timbuktu, because you just end up kind of falling into the mirage of every other single.
Yeah, you dilute the whole point of your entire promotional thing.
Yeah, and that's where Blessed Altar have really kept their game face on. They've managed to stay pretty true to what they do, which is underground and poking your head above the underground.
Yeah, so for example, Carl Willits is a good sort of middle ground there, because he's so connected to the underground. He's still very down to earth. He's just one of the most down to earth guys I've ever known.
Yeah.
But so that kind of thing is definitely present with Blessed Altar Zine. And they have a kind of an ethos is they don't really cover the more kind of core centric bands. Not because they don't think it's a musical genre or anything. It's just because it's already been done to death.
Yeah.
Everyone, Kerrang, Metal Hammer, they're all doing that. They don't need to do that. So they're kind of leaving that to do their own thing. But they want to support underground, more niche genres. And I think they do great work, if I'm honest. They're a committed team. There's only about 6 of us, I think. And they are all loyal, committed, engaged, constantly professional, really professional. The way they organize themselves is very, very cool. They always try to do different things. I'm the one that's been pushing the interview aspect. I'm the only native English speaker in all of them, so they want me to do all the interviews, and I'm like, okay, which is fine.
So this is a busman's holiday for you then.
Yeah, it's easy for me. Talking is literally the best thing I can do. I'm good at talking. That's about it, really. But yeah, so it was cool working with them. I think it's been very good to have that as a review outlet when Rifftastic kind of went down. So I was like, But it was cool that they saw what I was doing at Rifftastic and they were like, do you want to join us? And we're like, yeah, go on then. Like, sure.
Yeah. It just, it takes up a lot of time, doesn't it? You know, it
does.
You end up kind of, you know, and I'm lucky now. I've got, you know, quite a few people have jumped on board to help me with the reviews, because it was just, you were missing so much stuff that you wanted to give attention to, because it's just
you only have so much time in your day.
Yeah, exactly. You know? And you know, the boss expects me to actually do some work during the working day, and the wife expects me to do some, you know, husbandly duties at some point in life. So you know, exactly. It's kind of it gets tough. But
it's finding that balance. I've been lucky to get a good routine going. You know, I can balance doing graphics, doing reviews, doing recording, and features as well. I've got some features coming out soon, very exciting. You know, and I've just been able to balance that. And I'm just very lucky that the circumstances just worked out. I had to drop one thing that I wanted to do, which was to produce music. I used to produce kind of electronic, dark, and kind of interesting ambient electronic music. Something I've always enjoyed to do. But pardon me. But I wasn't able to do that this year, which was unfortunate, but I will get on it hopefully this year. We'll see what happens. But yeah, no, I've been lucky. That's definitely a summarize of this, that I've got stuff to do. I've got plenty of more stuff coming as well, some more exciting news coming. I also have a venture that it's a company of essence, I guess you'd call it a company, that's going to have some big things coming its way either this or next year, depending what happens with COVID. We're a bit dependent on when things come back to normal. That's going to make a massive influence into the metal scene in the UK and ties into something that we've been talking about earlier.
I'm intrigued. We'll wait and
I'll keep it vague.
Yeah, no, I'll make sure you, when you're ready to talk about that, drop us a message and we'll
definitely
go around the boy again.
It'll be public within the next few months, I'm sure.
Okay, cool. Finally, do you want to pimp yourselves out to the digital world? Where can people find Ashen Crown stuff? Where can people find Grimorte? Where can they book you to do art? Although sell your soul to the devil.
I mean, I do this daily anyway. But yeah, you can find Ashen Crown on obvious platforms, things like that. We don't do our music through Bandcamp though, for merch, etc. It's through Big Cartel, so you can find us on there. For Grimorte, we are on every platform in existence except Big Cartel. We can find all our material and merch on our Bandcamp, just Grimorte. It's with an E on the end, not a T. And graphic wise, you can get hold of me via my Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, or my email, Kieran Scott at live.co.uk. You can Kieran Scott 1, sorry, at live.co.uk.
The one.
Yeah, no, I always forget the one part. But yeah, then that's pretty much it. Yeah, I think that's me
in a book.
Repped.
Perfect. Anything else? Any final shout outs, thanks, abuse you want to throw out there to the world?
Yeah, I'm going to say thank you, the UK Thrashers, for getting us involved with Moshing on the Roof. That was really fucking cool. I'm excited to give that a few more pump outs in the next few weeks, just to get some extra revenue in.
Kieran, thanks for joining us. Great to catch up at last. Thanks for all the support, and good luck with everything going forward.
This is Tim from Damnation's Hammer. You're listening to the UK Thrashers podcast. Whoa, yeah.
So that was Kieran from Ashen Crown and Grimorte, and here is some Grimorte. This is from their debut EP. This is Firvir. Okay, we're nearly at the end of this week's episode. Thank you to Kieran for joining us on the show. Thank you to you guys for listening. Thank you as always to the bands that let us use their music. And thank you for keeping on buying Moshing the Roof On. This is your last weekend to get your pre-orders for your name in the booklet, so please try and do that this weekend. We're going to finish off with a band that have submitted a track for Moshing the Roof On Volume 2. This is their brand new track from their upcoming new album due out in the middle of the year from Blackpool. This is Blacklist and Blood on the Sand.
Hate, one time for all, we'll stand upon this hill, standing tall.